Welcome back. Hope you're all doing well. It is early on is it Thursday morning? Yeah, Thursday. And getting a little rain here this morning. I haven't checked the weather. Hopefully, it's just a little bit above freezing, but hopefully it doesn't cool off here in the next few hours because all these roads will be closed. So, 2023 was a terrible year. Maybe the worst year in trucking ever. And so if you watch YouTube, you get a lot of people telling you why it was bad, but they won't give you their opinion. They'll just show you some charts from a website that got their information from another website. They'll tell you, I don't make predictions, but every one of their videos is making you think they're making a prediction or you know how things are going to turn around or something. And so this is, you know, my opinion on the trucking market of last year and why it was so bad. And I think there are lots of reasons for it. It's hard to put your finger on any one thing. Even the people that I see that are in the business of looking at all these numbers and trying to identify what's going on can't figure it out. But turn these windshield wipers down a bit. So I watch all these videos. I mean, I watch a lot of them. Sometimes, you know, when I'm back there making my lunch or my supper, I put YouTube on and I just let it roll. And whatever videos it recommends, that's what I listen to. And so the first reason, and I think this plays a huge role in what's happened over the past few years. And this came to me because, like I said, I turned on YouTube and I just let the videos roll. And the first video popped up, and this guy was a dispatcher, a broker. I'm not sure if he was a dispatcher or broker, but I believe he was a dispatcher. He gave his reasons for why the market was so down, and we all know capacity is high. But this guy gave his reasons and his, you know, predictions or whatever. That video was over. Another guy comes on. These are very, very popular YouTubers. And the next guy talks about brokers and dispatchers and how bad the industry is and what he thinks the problem is. And his video ends, and the next girl gets on there. She does the same thing. And 5 videos in a row. About that third one, I saw a pattern. And then it just, you know, the light bulb went off. 5 videos in a row of people that are telling me what's wrong with the industry. And all 5 of those first videos were people who were immigrants. In this case, they were legal immigrants, I'm sure. But it brought up the subject of immigrants. And I've touched on this in the past. And it's funny because in the past I was talking about people from Ukraine and Russia, and I had people telling me I was a racist. So I have nothing against people immigrating to this country and doing their part, paying their fair share. But for all of you people, I'm going to say you people, that don't spend much time in Texas or California, you don't understand the crisis of illegal immigration and people coming over that southern border and the role it's playing in our industry, because you have lots of people, and this is, you know, it's mostly political, depending on which side of the aisle you're on. A lot of people that say, hey, we should have open borders, let those people across, they're starving and all this stuff. Well, those are the same people who are not worried about their jobs. They're not worried about people camping out in their front yard because they live in gated communities. They have a college degree. They're actors, they're celebrities, they're bankers, they're lawyers, they're news anchors. It doesn't hit them in the pocketbook like it does you or I. And when I'm talking about illegal immigration, people will say, oh, well, illegal immigrants can't get a CDL. They do. Like I said, if you're not from down here, then you don't see it. You don't understand it. You cannot legally get a CDL without being able to speak and read English. It's impossible. But it happens every day, all the time. Down here in Texas, every so often, one of these offices that, you go take your CDL test, every so often one of them gets busted because of some kind of payments scheme or operation where illegal immigrants are paying several $1,000s just to go in there and be handed a CDL. Happens all the time here, and it happens in Florida too. I can't forget about Florida, because Florida has illegal immigration from Cuba, but it's a little bit different for Cubans. So those illegal immigrants are coming across the border. They're not, like I said, they're not going after that news anchor's job. They're not going after, that banker's job. And they're coming after your job and my job. And they're getting CDLs. Even if they do it legally, it takes them some time. They become citizens. It takes some time, and they're aiming for construction jobs where you don't have to have a college degree for the most part. And it is a huge problem. And everybody here that's in trucking knows what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about you guys that are legal immigrants that worked hard and came over here the right way. I'm talking about the legal part. And you've seen it if you've been in trucking for very long, where you've gone into a truck stop and you see somebody that can't even speak English to order food, and somehow they have a CDL. Side story, when was it? I think it was earlier this year. I got pulled into a weigh station. They said, pull around, we're going to do an inspection. I pulled around, there was a truck in the bay, and I'm waiting there 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And finally, I get out of my truck because there hasn't been anybody outside. And I walk into the office, and there are two people behind the counter there, and they're both hunched over, trying to speak to a person that's on the other side of the counter. And there's 3 DOT officers there, and then the person, the truck driver of that truck. One of the DOT officers is trying to speak Spanish to this person who doesn't speak a lick of English. And I'm sitting there listening, and like I said, I've been waiting close to 40 minutes already. And it dawned on me, wait a minute, it's illegal for this person to have a CDL. And they're trying to tell this person the violations on their truck and what he needs to get fixed. And they're just going to let him glide right out of there, knowing that it's illegal for him to have a CDL, not being able to understand English. And I stood there for 20 minutes, and finally one of the tellers behind there came up to me and said, what are you here for? And I said, well, they told me to pull around here for an inspection. And one of the DOT officers took my inspection book real quick and looked at it. He goes, okay, just go ahead and pull around and go. Because they were taking all their time with this person who couldn't speak English. And so, like I said, last time I talked about this, I didn't even mention a skin color, but I had several people calling me racist, which brings up the point. If I didn't bring up a skin color, what's in your mind? What are you thinking? So anyway, that's a big problem. It's big all over the U.S. Companies over the last several years have have been handing out visas, work visas, like candy, because we had a crisis where it was the other way around just a few years ago, where we didn't have any capacity and they were getting foreign truck drivers in here. Now you have foreign-owned trucking businesses handing out visas and only hiring people from their native country to come over. And lots of times they're taking advantage of those drivers. So it is a huge problem. And one of the videos that I watched, this person was talking about there's 3.5 million drivers, and over 20%, this was as of 2 years ago, over 20% of those drivers were immigrants. So that was 2 years ago. You can imagine with the open border policy we've had over the past 2 or 3 years, how much more that's increased. So, like I said, I have no problem with people coming over here legally and doing work, because I myself have gone to a lot of different countries around the world and worked, and I've had to go through that process of, doing the paperwork and being allowed in the country to work under their rules. So getting to this country legally and getting a job legally is easy. But we should, right now, that the border going from Texas all the way to California, thousands upon thousands of people every single day are coming in there. And those people are not only from Mexico, they're from every country in South America, and they're from every country possible, because they know that right now they can get into South America or Mexico and come right across our border. And so, and like I said, those people aren't going to be lawyers and doctors and news anchors and actors. They're going to come after truck driving jobs and construction jobs, and they're going to affect our ability to make money. So I'm sure a lot of people have tuned out after that little rant, but I don't hate on people because of their politics, but right now politics is playing a big role in our ability to make money. So the next thing that's affecting, that has affected the market, I think this is as big or bigger than immigration, and it could have an effect, a bigger effect this year on the market turning around, and that is all of the government loans that people got a few years ago. If you weren't in the trucking industry or you weren't a business owner, during the COVID period, the government was handing out money. I mean, if you're a business owner, just apply. It took 5 minutes to apply. Boom, you were approved for $90,000, $100,000, $150,000. And I found out about this through a friend of mine, who he called me up and he said, "Man, have you applied for this EIDL loan?" And I'd heard about it, but I didn't know anything about it. And he literally applied for the money. It took him 5 minutes to fill out the little form online. And 3 days later, he had $100,000 in his account, no questions asked. And I thought about it for a long time, and I started telling other drivers about it. So part of the loan was if you had employees, including yourself, you would get a grant for $1,000 for each employee. And the other part was the actual loan. So I thought about it. I said, well, you know what? Let me just apply and see how much I could get. And I was approved instantly for I think it was $90,000 or somewhere around there. And I didn't take the money right away. I thought, man, that's a big responsibility. I didn't need the money, but started looking into what the government, the restrictions the government was putting on that money, I thought, no, I shouldn't do it. And so then I got a letter saying that if I wanted that loan, I needed to provide all my paperwork for the last 3 years. Because at one point I had stopped driving. I stopped working for myself. I went to work as a company driver for a few months, and that threw a monkey wrench in that. But then I was just like, you know what? I don't need it. I'm not taking it. So I didn't take the EIDL, but I know a lot of people who did, and there were a lot of YouTube truckers on here, man. They didn't say anything about taking the money, but for some reason they had all this extra cash to go to the auction and buy trailers and buy motorcycles and all this stuff. Well, at some point, that money ran out for all those drivers because they weren't spending it the way they were supposed to. And I think like the middle of last year is when we reached that point where all these guys went out and bought these nice hooded trucks, or they went out and bought themselves a Corvette or a motorcycle, and that money ran out, and they're still faced with having to buy fuel for that truck, having to do maintenance on it, and it hit everybody. This is my opinion, I think it hit everybody early or the middle of last year, 2023. And that's when we started seeing all these drivers going out of business. We started seeing record numbers of authorities closing down. And at that point, early on in 2023, you could go by one of these used truck lots and you might see one or two trucks. You go by one now, they don't even have space for any more trucks. They can't sell trucks. I was at a rental place the other day, and all the rental trucks they had were turned in, and they couldn't find people to rent them to. The whole lot was absolutely full. So that, in my opinion, was a big part of the capacity issues. All those people that wouldn't have gotten that EIDL loan or wouldn't have gotten any kind of loan would have been out of business a long time ago. But that loan floated them along for another year or two, and then all of a sudden the rates went down. That hooded truck
in 2 miles, take exit 19 for US 190 East toward Baton Rouge.
That hooded truck was getting 5 miles a gallon. Diesel was $5 a gallon, and everything just crashed. They all went out of business. You've got some that are still hanging on, that are trying to sell their trucks. I even saw one popular YouTuber at the time. I don't know if he took the EIDL loan to get his truck or not, but he readily admitted he bought the truck because it looked good and he thought it would get YouTube clicks, and he had to end up selling the truck. But yeah, the EIDL loan, I think that perpetuated what we're seeing now, this capacity, and how many people that stayed in it versus how many people that would have been out of it a long time ago. That drastically affected that, and that's why last year so many people went out of business, because they spent all that loan money, and they would have been out of business a long time ago, but it floated them along for a little while, and it resulted in where we are now. So that, if you want to look forward to something, in 2024, that capacity is going to keep coming down, and we're going to see, kind of an
in half
evening.
a mile, take exit 19 for US 190 East toward Baton Rouge.
She never wants to talk unless I'm talking. So yeah, we'll see that capacity even out, truck to load ratio. But going back to my first point, immigration.
Take exit 19.
If we don't do something about immigration, legal and illegal immigration, and all the visas that are being handed out,
for half a mile,
then all that capacity coming out of the market is not going to mean anything. It's going to stay right back up where it was at.
In a quarter mile, turn left onto US 190 East, US Highway 190 East.
Okay. So right now, in my opinion, is the best time to get into trucking. I've been telling people for a year, don't do it, don't do it. It's tough. And it still is tough. It takes a lot of hustle.
Turn left onto US 190 East, US Highway 190 East.
Especially right now. But equipment prices right now are at an all-time low. They're trying to give stuff away. I saw a truck day before yesterday. They were asking $10,000 for, and the truck was in pretty good shape. Said it ran good. Had an overhaul like 600,000 miles ago, which that doesn't mean a whole lot. But why does this guy have his right turn signal on and he's turning left? This. Oh, gear's too high, but I made it.
Continue on US 190 East for 49 miles.
Some other things that are affecting our industry and may or may not have anything to do with politics. Well, one of them does, because if you weren't aware, the U.S. used to control the Panama Canal. We used to have total control over it. And back a lot of years ago, one of our worst presidents in U.S. history said, "Oh, let's give that Panama Canal back and sign this treaty and just turn it back over to the Panamanians." And he just gave up control over it. But yeah, we'll just keep our military there just in case. That was one of the worst mistakes we've ever made. But now the Panama Canal is drying up. And there's also a whole lot of conflicts going on around the Red Sea and the canal over there. COVID changed things in a big way, because more shipping containers used to show up in California and drop off their containers there, and people would take them across country. But now, they've been, for the most part, trying to go through the Panama Canal or go around South America because of the politics in California. I'm sure you all know that politicians out there want to get rid of trucks, basically, period. And they think somehow the freight's going to get moved by magic, but they've done away with all the diesel burning trucks in the ports. They're doing away with all the diesel burning trucks in the state by, I think it's 7 or 8 years from now. It's just they have brownouts every single year. They ask people not to plug in their electric vehicles, to turn off their electricity, but they want to turn everything over to electric trucks. I don't know. It's a lot of that depends on your politics and the way you lean. I have nothing against electric vehicles, but they're not the savior of the world. And so a lot of companies, instead of dropping off their containers in Long Beach and letting truck drivers or trains carry it across country, they're taking the long way around and dropping it off in Florida and Georgia and other ports. So that's, conflicts, politics, all kinds of things are affecting that to some degree. But there are times when those politics backfire on people, and I think that will, in the long run, all these electric vehicle mandates will backfire on politicians, because there will come a time. Could you imagine, God forbid, a major earthquake in California disrupting the power grid? You'd have a good percentage of the population that wouldn't be able to drive anywhere, and now a fairly good percentage of truck drivers in and out of these ports that are not going to be able to charge their trucks. And can you imagine how the rates will explode for people that can put diesel in their trucks and drive, a couple thousand miles without stopping? It may backfire on them. We'll see. But getting good rates now is hard to do. But we're able to survive somewhat, except for the other costs surrounding what we do. So even if all things were all the rates were exactly the same as they were 3 years ago, we would still be making far less money as truck drivers because of inflation, because of the rising cost of groceries, the doubling of diesel prices, the rising cost of parts, of maintenance, of everything. It has very much been overinflated these past few years, and that has nothing to do with capacity. It has everything to do with political leadership. So that's my rant. 2023 was a combination of all types of things coming together, the perfect storm for a lot of stuff. But some of the things could have been prevented, and some of the things will work themselves out, and we'll see in which direction it goes in 2024. Why do people have to pass you, pull in front of you, and then slow down? This guy just came around me, he passed me, got in front of me. I'll give him that horn. Dumbasses. Happens all. Why? I don't know. I'm not afraid to honk the horn. I get a lot of people telling me I'm number one when I honk the horn at them. So yeah, we'll see what 2024 brings. 2023 is in the books, and if you look at it on paper, my year wasn't much different as far as gross than any other year, except for the fact that I paid twice as much for diesel. I paid far more for oil changes. I do my own oil changes, but I paid more for filters. I paid more for the oil, and food. I paid far more for food. That's been overinflated. And so fingers crossed for 2024, and we'll see where we're going. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up.